I see non-duality as it's not really about that. The word is a translation of the Sanskrit advaita, which literally means not to. And it goes way back to really 3,000 years ago to Vedanta, sort of the earliest teachings we have on the planet. And the best introduction that I know of it in that tradition is in the Upanishads, which is really the beginning of Vedanta. And in one of the Upanishads, the Chandogya Upanishad, a father sends his son off to school. His son is 12 years old, and he says, you must go and study with the rishis and the Vedic scholars. And the son goes off for 12 years and comes back really full of it. He knows all about the stars and astrology and the herbs and the medicine and the rituals and all that stuff. And his father says, well, did they teach you about that which cannot be seen, cannot be heard, and cannot be known, yet without which nothing can be seen, heard, or known? And the son says, no. What's that? And he says, surely, if they'd known about it, they would have taught me. Can you tell me, sir? Very reverent in those days. So his father starts this long teaching. And right at the beginning of the teaching, he says, you see these two pots made of clay. They're clearly very different pots. There's a duality here. The pots are real. And they're each made of clay. The essence is the same. And the pots wouldn't exist without the clay. They're totally dependent upon the clay for their existence. And yet what we see is the pots, their shape, their size, their color. The clay, on the other hand, is always there, the essence, and is completely untouched. It's untainted by the potness. The pot can be this or that, it can be this color, it can be broken. The clay is always the same. And he says, by knowing the essence of clay, you know the essence of all things made of clay. And then the teaching goes on, and he says, know your own essence. When you know your own essence, then you know the essence of all things. And there's the famous line at the end of each of these passages where he says that being, which is the subtlest level of everything, that art thou, tat tvam asi. And that's where that line, which Deepak was referring to last night, it comes from that Upanishad. Tat tvam asi, that art thou. So he's saying, know your own essence, and you know the essence of everything. And the question is, what is that essence? And it's interesting because he never defines the essence. He says, look within, explore yourself, and you will discover it. But he doesn't give it a name, which is true in many mystical traditions. They say, this essence, it cannot be given a name, it cannot be defined, and yet it is so familiar. We all know it so well, and by inquiring within, we can begin to discover for ourselves what that essence is.
Let's first start with the easier of the two. Dark matter is the term given to a hypothetical form of matter, expected to be unlike anything discovered before. It is believed to be non-baryonic, meaning it doesn't follow the standard structure of most matter, i.e. electrons and neutrinos, and this might mean that dark matter may constitute some kind of undiscovered subatomic particle. Obviously, we have our periodic table of elements, and have a fundamental understanding of a myriad of different types of atomic and molecular structures, but dark matter could be the remaining blank, the type of particle we have yet to discover. One thing to note is that the use of the word dark is somewhat inaccurate, and a term such as invisible matter or unknown matter might be slightly more scientific. This is because dark matter does not appear to interact with observable electromagnetic radiation, and as such, it is invisible to the electromagnetic spectrum. In layman's terms, it doesn't emit or reflect light, and so it appears to be invisible from Earth. This means that it cannot be picked up using standard astronomical equipment either, and so studying it is exceedingly difficult. But despite being so elusive, dark matter is expected to account for up to 85% of the matter of the observable universe, and little over a quarter of its energy density. These figures stem from the apparent commonality of dark matter, which is hypothesized to be so due to its observed gravitational effects on galaxies, which cannot be explained by observable matter alone. If that was hard to follow, basically the matter that we can see in the universe, stars, galaxies, black holes, etc., is simply not enough matter to explain some of the astronomical phenomena we have observed. A large part of the cosmic jigsaw appears to be missing, and we'll look at why that is in a second. But chiefly, experts believe that dark matter is both common and frequently occurring throughout the known universe and plays a key role in its structure and evolution. Search for this abundant subatomic particle underpins one of physics' greatest initiatives, and with its existence all but confirmed, how close are we to finding it? If dark matter is indeed an undiscovered particle, then if we can isolate it and comprehend its properties and behaviour in a lab, then perhaps we can find uses for it, and perhaps we could tailor its use to improve technology here on Earth. We've been hunting it for decades, but we still haven't managed to isolate it yet. We've employed a few different strategies, such as trying to recreate it in the Large Hadron Collider, but so far we've come up empty-handed. However, it is important to remember that scientific breakthroughs are more mobile than ever these days thanks to advancements in technology. We've just photographed a black hole, something that was thought impossible 20 years ago. Furthermore, AI and machine learning are helping us to refine our search techniques to elevated levels of perceptivity. All we need is one stroke of luck, and it's likely that we will have found or isolated dark matter within the next decade. So,
there's non-dual philosophies in Indian traditions, in Buddhist traditions, in Sufi traditions, in Christian traditions. In this tradition, there's arising now in the 21st century a whole new spiritual tradition. There's non-dual philosophies, which are all sort of pointing to the fact in one way or another that there is an essence that we don't know. They're all pointing to it and saying that this is the essence of everything. The problem with non-dual philosophies is our intellects get engaged, like which one is right, or which one has limitations, is my one the right one? They're all constructs, as Deepak was talking about last night, and everything Deepak was talking about was a construct. All non-dual philosophies, they're all just more constructs in the mind, and we start getting into debates and arguments. I happen to feel pretty sympathetic to Deepak's construct, but that's just because my construct resonates with his. But they're all just constructs, and we can debate them till the cows come home. But what the teachers are really talking about is, what is the path to experiencing that, to actually tasting that essence, the path to it. And that's what I'm really more interested in, because it's really about how do we wake up to this in our own life. The philosophies can be great, they can be inspiring, they can be frustrating at times, but they can be inspiring to help us find a path, to follow a path, to wake up to this essence. But in the end, it's like, how do we, each of us in our own lives, begin to, let's say wake up, to rediscover this for ourselves? Because that's what it's really about, and that's what changes our lives. And somewhat ironically, many non-dual teachers will point out there is no path. That's another sort of characteristic of non-dual teachings. They say there is no path to this, by which they mean there's nowhere to get to. One of my favorite lines is from a Buddhist teacher who said, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to be.
Despite never having found the actual particle, we understand dark matter very well. So what about dark energy? Well, this is a much different story. Dark energy is very different to dark matter despite the name. Whereas matter is something physical that follows a constant law, energy is a quantitative property of the universe. This kind of energy, however, has an added layer of mystery and impossibility. Dark energy is an unknown form of energy that is hypothesized to be present in all parts of space and time, right across the known universe and beyond the cosmic horizon. It is sometimes referred to as vacuum energy for its presence in the near vacuum of space. Dark energy is suspected to contribute about 2/3 of the total energy density of the currently observable universe. Earlier we addressed that dark matter accounts for about a quarter. While it accounts for most of the mass in the universe, dark energy doesn't have a mass, but it still vastly outweighs dark matter's share of energy density, and this figure is about 27%. Dark energy makes up 68%, and the rest, the normal baryonic matter and energy in atoms, makes up a measly 5%. These figures have well-defined error bars and may vary following the making of this video, but whatever the case, just know that normal matter is dwarfed by dark matter and dark matter is dwarfed by dark energy. Energy is either consistent everywhere in the universe, or it may vary in quantities depending on its surroundings like dark matter does. It is, in all likelihood, constant throughout the universe, meaning it is as present here on Earth as it is in the farthest corners of creation. But despite this apparent volume of dark energy, it is estimated to be very low density, much less than ordinary matter and dark matter. However, it is the prevailing energy in the universe because, whether it is constant or varying, it is believed to be present across all of space. Whereas dark matter varies and is more prevalent in galaxies and structures, dark energy is everywhere.
Another great teaching, Indian teaching on this, many of you are probably familiar with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's not about physical yoga so much, it includes that, but it's really about the whole philosophy of yoga, which is, the word yoga means oneness or joining, coming together. Again, I don't see it means attaining something as it's sometimes understood, but oneness to me is the end of separation. It's coming back to our own oneness. And the first line, the very famous first line, which is almost every yoga school has it somewhere. Yoga is the ceasing of the whirling of mind stuff. Yoga is the ceasing of the whirling of mind stuff. You go back to 19th century translations and it's all about, we've got to stop it. We've got to stop the whirling of mind stuff. And then you watch the translations, they go through the 20th century, they get softer and softer. Oh, it's allowing it to cease. Or it's just a statement, when the whirling of mind stuff ceases, then the separation ends. And then even deeper, the word that's translated as ceasing also has the meaning of freedom. It's freedom from the whirling of mind stuff. And then the second line, people just go for the first line and think that's great, and then the second line is really interesting. It says, then, when the whirling of mind stuff ceases, then there is abiding in the true nature of the knower. That's how we come back to knowing our essence. When the whirling of the mind stuff ceases, then the true nature of that which knows all things, the true nature of that which knows what can be seen, heard, and known, then that starts becoming apparent. But again, not as some amazing cosmic experience, but just as, it's that simple.
So with all this considered, and with so many unanswered questions, why don't we just try and find dark energy the way we're trying to find dark matter? Surely, if we isolated dark energy, we could learn more about its nature. Well, that's just it. We don't need to find dark energy because it's everywhere. It's all around us in constant quantities, but it's so homogeneous and low density that it cannot be detected by lab experiments, also owing to its failure to interact with normal matter, light, and even gravity. It's somewhat ironic. The answer to the inexplicable questions of the universe are right here in front of us, yet we have no way of ever isolating or studying them. It is the only force in the known universe to seemingly subvert gravity, and just as its name suggests, it's dark, unknown, inexplicable, and unreachable. In conclusion, there is no real conclusion to be drawn from this video. I can't give you a thought-provoking ending or creepy mysterious one, and there isn't much in the actual way of substance with regard to dark matter and dark energy to show you. Even if the term dark is slightly scientifically inaccurate, its theatrical and existential connotations are spot on. We are in the dark. We have no idea. The more we know, the more we realise we don't know. It's a cycle that has been driving science for centuries, and the only saving grace is that who knows what fascinating and perplexing discoveries it could uncover beyond this. All we can say for sure is that the universe is vast, inexplicable, and awesome, and perhaps, thanks to dark energy, it will be cursed to remain that way for eternity.